Hello. How are you guys doing? It is very late. It is 4:08 a.m. and I crashed like super early tonight. Alex and I both did. I don't really know why I crashed so early because I got a lot of sleep last night, but he was so exhausted from being in Chicago all weekend, and then he had to work all day today. So he came home and I got some noodles and company, and then we watched Pose, which is like my new favorite show on FX. And then I went to bed like a half an hour. Oh, no. Then we watched the Kardashians on Family Feud, which I'd already watched like part of it, but I watched it with him. And then I went to bed, and then he came up like a half an hour later. And man, I crashed out. So I was asleep by like 9:30, and I woke up at like 3:30 in the morning. So I'm like wide awake right now. I don't know how people go to bed at like 8 o'clock. I would sleep. I would get up at 2 o'clock in the morning, and then I would be up like just forever. Deer out tonight. Let me just tell you, I try to always make like sense of things. Well, let me just tell you about my day, first of all, I guess. So a deer just crossed the road. Oh my gosh. It's like a little baby fawn. I got up today and I wrote for just a little bit, not for very long. And then I had a counseling appointment, which went really, really well. And that was at like 1 o'clock. And then after that, my phone broke last night. I couldn't make any phone calls out. The speaker button was just gray on it. And I couldn't play my audiobooks or anything. I was so frustrated. So this is my weekend, okay? First, my camera. I had to get a new camera. And then I got the battery, and then the battery didn't work, so I had to get a new camera. I think my old camera is just dead. I've tried to charge it with different cords. I've tried to charge it with different batteries. I think it's just dead. I think the camera is it's done. So, I don't know. I wanted to have 2 vlogging cameras, but that's just not going to be the case. So anyway, so I had to get a new camera on Sunday, but after I got my new camera, I brought it home, and I was like watching YouTube videos, and the speaker on my computer was like crackling. It was like, it sounded almost like a fireplace. It was like crackling. And so I searched it on Google, what to do, and they were saying all these different things. It could be a subwoofer. It could be the balance on your speaker. I did everything that they said to do, and it didn't fix it. So then I started listening to it through headphones, because I could listen to it just fine through headphones, and that fixed it. But then I got so frustrated with it, I just was like, I'm not working on my computer anymore. So I got off my computer. Well, and that's why I didn't live stream last night. Because I didn't know if it would echo back that. So the computer fixed itself. I don't know why, but the speaker is working today just fine. But my phone last night, I was it's so weird, you guys. I don't think about how much I'm connected to my phone. I mean, I've talked about it in videos and stuff, but I don't think about it until I can't make a call out on my phone. I literally could not, I was texting my friend, and I was like, I don't know what to do about my phone. I can't make any phone calls out. And he was trying to help me, and but nothing would work. And so I finally just last night, I was just screw it. I'm going to bed. I'll just take it into the store tomorrow. So I took my phone in today, and the guy that helped me was fantastic, and he was really, really nice. And he was like, it's the motherboard on your phone. And he goes, this happens sometimes. And I'm like, okay, well, what are my options? And he's like, well, you can take it to the Apple store. I was like, oh, no. I said, I cannot go to the Apple store. I said, that place gives me anxiety. I said, there's 9 million people in there and you have to wait and have an appointment. I can't do that. I said, I'm too busy. And I said, I'm overwhelmed. I can't go in that store. So he said, okay, well, here are your options. He said, you can upgrade your phone because you're ready for an upgrade. He said, you can, pay off what you owe, which we didn't know very much. And he was like, or you can, if you take it to Apple, they'll only charge you for half of a brand new phone. And I was like, well, how much is a new phone? He goes, well, it depends on what phone you get. And he was like, you have a 7, so it would probably be like $400. And I go, for a brand new phone, that's half of it? And he was like, yeah. I go, but we've been paying on these phones for like years. So, and he was like, or you can use the insurance and send it in. But he goes, they'll have to decide whether it's an insurance issue or not. If it is, they'll send you a new phone, but that could be up to 2 to 3 weeks. And I was like, well, I can't be with a kind of phone for 2 or 3 weeks. So I upgraded my phone. I now have an iPhone X because it was like only like a $10 more. Look at my new screensaver, Peter Monn. But I was trying to find pictures of Alex and I, but none of them looked good when I put it on there. I'm so frustrated already with it. Okay. It's to get it all reset up is a lot of work, and so that's what I spent a lot of the day on. So I got home and I had pre-filmed videos, and so I just was like, you know what, like, I'm just gonna relax today after 3 days of dealing with technology, and I am going to just upload videos that I already have up ready to go. So that's what I did, but I kind of like missed making videos today. It was weird. So I uploaded my haul with Melissa. I uploaded, well, I had a video that I made for my Peterisms channel yesterday, but when I got it all the way uploaded, it was like 6 minutes short. I don't even know why. So I had to like re-upload it. And so I posted that. And then I had some Peter Likes Books videos already pre-filmed, so I put those up. So yeah. What else? That was my day, and then Alex got home because he got off work at 6. And I had asked him if he wanted to go out to dinner with Melissa and Jason. He's like, I'm so tired, I just want to relax at home. I don't want to do anything. And I was like, okay. But tonight it was weird. Like after I felt like once I got up from being asleep, I felt like so refreshed and like weirdly refreshed. I can't even explain it. Not just like of the day, but like of life. And I was thinking about this, and like I try to make sense of stuff. Okay, this is where if you guys don't buy into this stuff, you're gonna have to just like check out right now because like this is how I make sense of stuff. And I'm like, okay, it is, unless somebody put voodoo up on all over your technological stuff, the fact that your computer, your camera, and your phone all went out in one weekend is interesting. And I'm very much somebody that believes in like transitions, and I'm like, am I going through some transition period right now in my life? Like if you look at the year that like my mom passed away, like not the calendar year, but the year, because that was really the last event that occurred in my transition, I think in my transition year of like putting some things behind me and moving on to the next. Like it's interesting, like my ex and I broke up in December. I resigned from my career the end of December. My mom passed away in May. And then Alex and I met in August. So like that whole calendar year was like a huge like transition year for me. Or not calendar year, but that whole year was like a huge transition year for me. And I believe very much in transition years. There was a book that came out years and years and years ago actually called Transitions. And it said something like we go through 9 transition periods in our life of like literally like going from one thing to the next. And like a major one for me was like my career, obviously. Like, you know, that I went from one career to the next. And I really believe that a lot, you know. And I think a lot of times our lack of acceptance of the transition, like if we're resistant to that, I think causes for us not to go forward with the transition. I don't know if that makes sense. Like a lot of times we get stuck between 2 transition points, I think. I don't know if you guys understand what I mean by a transition point. So transition would be like where you go from one thing from your life to another. So like maybe you're going through a divorce, or maybe you're going through leaving one career and you're starting something completely different. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and so I think that like in an interesting way, I've like started to slowly like move out of my old career into more of doing YouTube videos and doing more writing. Like I've been focusing a lot on writing lately, you know, and it's like in the last, let's say 3 years, I've kind of been going through this transition, and I'm like, well, am I kind of almost at the end of this transition or something? Like a lot of times it feels like that, and right before we're like letting go of that last part, we get it's very nervous because you feel like you're kind of like in between 2 places. If you can imagine like putting your foot on like one place and another, and then there's like nothing in between you, because like if you're going from like a dock to a boat, that would be like a transition, right? So it's like that last leap that you have to take, you know, over the water, if that makes sense. And I don't know, it feels to me like a transition. I think every relationship that I had that was long term, that I went from one to the next, was a transition period. Which is weird too, because they've like all of my relationships ending, is there a bug in here, has coincided with other like major events, if that makes sense. Like, okay, so I was dating somebody when I went into treatment. It was the end of it, but that was also kind of like the end of that friend group and everything for me. So like treatment would be like one major, like me getting sober would be one major transition. And then like me breaking up with my first ex into meeting my next ex, because that all happened within like 4 months. Well, 6 months. Transitioning into a new position at my job, moving into a new apartment. All of that happened within like a 6 month to a year period. And then also like when I went into treatment, the same time I was in treatment, my mom was moving out of my childhood home. So, and then when my ex and I broke up and my mom, that would have been another, so like what, 3 major transitions I've had in my life so far. There is a get out. I don't know, it feels like that for me. My marriage is fine, but it feels like that for me, you know? Maybe I'm wrong. But a lot of times for me, with transition periods, it is like, it's like a line between uncertainty and confidence. Like I remember when I was in treatment and, you know, I was in there 4 weeks. in my last week, I was meeting with my counselor, and I was really nervous to go. You know, she's like, I think you're ready to go. And I said, I feel ready to go, but I'm really scared. And she goes, that's why it's time. She said, because you have to have a mix of fear and confidence. And I feel like any transition period in my life was me taking risks and being scared, but at the same time, like, it was a good thing. And whenever I've embraced those transition periods, I talked a lot to my counselor about this today too, because I was like, I mean, there's a lot of things from us, like looking at a place in Florida to, just a lot of different things, you know, in my life that are like, endings and beginnings. When you look at endings, like endings and beginnings together, and you have a lot of them, like that's kind of like a transition period. I don't know. But I think the difference is today versus like 20 years ago is that I know to embrace them today. Like they don't make me, like I'm not necessarily as afraid as I used to be, but I also don't have the same kind of risks that I used to have. You know, like leaving a job was really scary because I didn't necessarily know how I was going to pay my bills long term. But I think you have to make changes in life. You have to take risks. You have to do new things. You know, I think if you don't, then you never know what's around the corner. You know, like, I mean, I have friends of mine that literally have been in the same job for 30 years. And I'm like, but they complain all the time too, you know? And I'm like, well, then why do you stay there? The yellow light is on. A couple people have said that it's right above my heater. It's right on this, you guys, it has nothing to do with that because it's like, I appreciate your comments, but it has nothing to do with that because it's right above a place that's like really cool. So I don't know, and I didn't go to Best Buy today because I ran out of time dealing with my phone for 2 hours, 2.5 hours. I don't know, my gut just tells me that I'm going through a transition period in my life right now, which is kind of exciting too, because that means that a lot of new doors are about to open for me, and I don't know what they are, you know? And you have to be ready for that. You have to be ready for those new doors. You know, I'm a big believer that when desire meets opportunity, it's like, it's interesting because I'm like, whenever I talk about my weight on here, I always get a lot of shit. But you know, like, I've had actually a lot of like opportunities kind of thrown at me recently that haven't necessarily been fully realized, if that makes sense. And I really think it's timing. Like, I think it's not the time for it to happen. And, like, at the same time, I'm kind of like, okay, you're the biggest you've been in a while. Like, maybe right now is not the time anyway. Like, you know what I mean? And so, but I'm also very much a believer that, like, is that a sign for me, like, get your shit together, because when desire meets opportunity, you have to be ready, you know? It's like, if your friend calls you up and says, like, if you get up every day, you know, and you, like, let's say if every day you're being left out of, like, friends going to lunches and people asking you to go shopping, but you're getting up at 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock in the afternoon, right? And just sitting around the house in sweatpants and a t-shirt, and then you're complaining because you never get to go do any things with them, but they're all leaving at like 11 o'clock. Well, maybe you need to start getting up a little bit earlier so that, you know, when they call, you're prepared, if that makes sense. And if they don't call, then you're still prepared and you can go have a wonderful day on your own. And so, I think, you know, it's important to be, like, I know this is going to sound crazy, but, I mean, there's no version of perfect, but I think that it's important to be working on yourself and be who you want to be in case an opportunity arises. You know, have everything together with you, so if, you know, like, be up, be ready, you know, have all your work done for the day. So if your friend calls you up and says, hey, do you want to go out and have lunch? You can go out to lunch. You know what I mean? Like those kind of opportunities. Or, but I'm also very much a believer that, like, I always tell people to get back on the horse and you know, chase their dreams, because I really believe that. But at the same time, I'm very much a believer that the universe works to tell us things. I really, really do. So, like, if something is really hard, it's like not working out, like time and time and time again, there's a part of me that believes that, like, the universe is trying to tell us something. And the universe might not be telling us, don't do this. Like, this isn't what, like, let's say if, I don't know, like, let's say if you really want to work at McDonald's, and you apply to McDonald's and they tell you we're not hiring, and you go back, they say go to a different McDonald's, and you go to a different McDonald's and they say they're not hiring, and you go to, you know, 5 McDonald's and they're all not hiring, and then the last 2 tell you to put their applications in, they'll call you if something comes up, and then 2 weeks later you go by there and those 2 are hiring, and you go in there and you're like, are you hiring? And they're like, yeah. And you're like, well, I put my application in, and they're like, oh, well, okay, and, you know, we can't find your application. Maybe the universe is telling you you're not supposed to work at McDonald's. I don't know, right? Or maybe the universe is telling you right now you're not supposed to work at McDonald's. But see, we always see the negative out of that, but there's a lot of positive in that too. Like, okay, well, maybe I'm not supposed to work at McDonald's because I'm supposed to be working somewhere else. And I know it sounds like a bunch of hocus pocus, but, like, for me, I really do believe in that stuff sometimes. Like, that's where I just, like, float down the river of life. And when I say that, what I mean is you just let the river take you where you're supposed to go sometimes. And when you stop resisting and trying to control everything, things sometimes work out a little bit better, you know? At least they have for me. I just don't try to resist as much. I kind of just try to, like, go along with whatever the deal is, you know? And, but it's hard because it's like there's no, you know, map key. You have to kind of read into your own whatever's going on and be like, okay, so well, what is this? You know, like, is this the universe telling me I'm not supposed to do this? Is this universe telling me I'm not supposed to do this right now? You know, is this not the universe? Is this just coincidence? Which I'm not a big believer in coincidence, but I like to look at the world from a magical, mystical eye. I just do. Like, it's more fun for me. And you know, I don't just, like, look at it and go, okay, the universe is telling me that this isn't supposed to be. I look at it and kind of, like, evaluate, well, why would the universe tell me that? Like, why is now not the time? Or, you know, why would the universe not want me to, you know, have this opportunity? Or, you know, what is it? And sometimes we don't know, you know what I mean? It was interesting because I've really been struggling between 2 different fiction books that I'm working on. And I was driving around on Sunday and I was listening to the rest of She's Come Undone. And I get ideas for books all the time. But I was driving past a business and I saw somebody walk out of the business that I knew. And I was like, why are they coming out of there? Like, and it wasn't anything like, it's like a moth in here or something. The only reason I'm not telling you is because I don't want to ruin it if I end up working on this book, if that makes sense. But it wasn't like a strip club or anything like that. It was like a school. I saw somebody I knew from a 12-step program, and they were going to driver's ed. It's not that deep. But anyway, hold on a second. Go out. I hope you guys can still hear even with that. Maybe that moth will find its way out of the sunroof. But I saw, like, this friend of mine from meetings who's been sober for a really long time, and I just was thinking to myself, like, why is he going to driver's ed? like, I know that he drives, so did he get some kind of like DUI and he's never talked about it? Like, and I think he got sober as a result of like a driving situation. Anyway, it just got my wheels turning, and I was like, started to think about this book idea, and I was thinking about it in reference to reading about Dolores in She's Come Undone, and I was like really thinking about how much I loved her as a character and what I wanted, you know, like I like characters that learn, and it was weird how it happened for me, you know, like here I am, like, and it almost felt like the universe, like, I don't know, because I got this idea for this book, and I was like, I've been wanting to write a fictional book about addiction anyway, and I thought, oh my God, this is like the book, like, this is the book I was supposed, I mean, it all came together in my head in like 30 seconds, and I was like, I think this was the book I was supposed to be writing, you know? And I'm not going to start it tomorrow. I'm working on 2 other pieces, so that air is kind of nice, actually. Oh, it stopped. All right, I'm back. All right. I was gonna listen to my audiobook for a second, but I didn't. I just kind of drove around in silence. It was kind of nice. I haven't started my book club book yet. I'll get on it tomorrow. It's so nice out tonight. It's summer though, because there's bugs everywhere. Oh, Lord. I remember when I was growing up and like, we would play outside, you know, like in the summer. We've had like a really rainy summer so far. We had thunderstorms all day today here, all day Sunday, yesterday. The road is wet right now. I was looking at the weather earlier, and it said that we're supposed to get more rainstorms this morning. And I remember when I was growing up and we would like play outside. It's so muggy and humid this summer. It reminds me of the summers that I grew up. And we would play outside, and you just get eaten. You just constantly be slapping yourself, getting eaten alive by mosquito bites. We used to like X them out, you know? And I can remember coming inside at the end of the night and like, you know, taking a shower or a bath and putting on my pajamas and just like, I can remember laying in bed with my hair wet and just being eaten alive by mosquito, you know, like not in bed, but like having the mosquito bites all over me and just like itching like crazy from being outside. To the point of like almost wanting to cry because it was so bad, you know? I have this water bottle back here and it's like making all this noise. Tomorrow, I'm going to go into my office and write, and then make videos, and then we have our marriage counseling session at 6, and I don't know what we'll do after that. I'll probably do a live stream tomorrow night. Oh no, it's Tuesday. I have my meeting tomorrow night. like wide awake. Reminds me of that movie Thelma and Louise when she wakes up in the middle of the night and Thelma's driving and she goes, I'm awake. I don't remember ever being so awake. I miss taking road trips. I haven't taken a road trip in forever. And Alex and I used to, like when we would go to Miami, we would drive. So we had a car down there. It's like a 20-hour drive. And we would leave here at like 6 o'clock. And, oh, I forgot to put Danny's channel link up on the video yesterday, the vlog. Woofy Socks that I talked about in my video yesterday. I didn't put it on there until like after like 2 hours of the video being posted. So I'm gonna link it again today on this video. So go and subscribe to his channel, please. That would mean a lot to me. He's such a sweet guy. But anyway, I was thinking about that because I think they live in Fort Lauderdale, and I was like, oh, if I'm ever in Fort Lauderdale, I should call them up and maybe we can go out to dinner or something, the four of us. But we used to take, so we would leave Indianapolis at like 6 o'clock, and then that would put us in like Nashville, Tennessee at like 5 or like 11. And then we would like drive through the mountains in the middle of the night. But Alex would fall asleep about 8 or 9. And I loved that drive from like 8 until 5 a.m. And then he would take over. When it started getting, like the sun started coming up, I would go to sleep. I loved that drive, and I would listen to Coast AM, and I would listen to audiobooks, and I just loved it. I love road trips. I like long road trips that you like drive through the night. The very first time that we ever went to Fort Lauderdale together, it was the first year that we were together. So we started dating in August, and it was the following spring break for him. And he was taking like some graduate classes. And we had a friend of ours that was in undergraduate school. So we went to Fort Lauderdale, the three of us. And on the way back, like our friend was in the back seat. And he literally slept the entire, we got like kind of in a fight like the last night. We like went out in Miami like the last night. And he and Alex kind of got into it. And the silly fight. And so our friend didn't say one word, like not one word in 19 hours. And oh my God, there's just like ducks on the side of the road. And Alex and I stopped, and we ate Steak and Shake at one point, and I remember we stopped and we ate like we left at like 11 o'clock in the morning to drive back from Fort Lauderdale, and so we were like in Tennessee by like 11 or 12. Oh, Jesus, that car was like coming out of nowhere. I hate when cars like go whoop and then just stop. But anyway, I think like 12 or 1, we were in like the middle of Tennessee. And I remember we like came to this town, and it was like in the middle of the mountains. And there was like a Steak and Shake and like little hotels. It was like this cute town, but it was like the mountains were all around this town. And you know, I'm always so in my head about like wondering about people's lives and stuff. And I remember we went in there and we ate, and there was like 2 older couples. It was like the middle of the night, 2 older couples, and then there was like this table of like 2 girls and this guy. They were like teenagers, and we were like waiting for a table at the same time they were, and they were like talking to us, and they were like, you're so tan, where were you guys? And we're like, oh, we were in Fort Lauderdale. And they're like, we've never been out of Tennessee before. And they were talking to us, and it was like, I remember driving home that night, like as soon as we got back in the car, like Alex fell asleep. I remember it was like getting cold. It was like like, because it snowed in Indiana. This was like into March, and it was snowing in Indiana when we came back. And so like Alex and I changed, like we pulled out like long clothes, like sweats and sweatshirts out of our car and like changed in the parking lot. It was so fun, that road trip. I don't know why, even though like they had fought, but I remember like leaving there, and you know, we were still driving throughout the night. I listened to Rainbow Rowell's Eleanor and Park. I listened to that book on the way back. But I remember like thinking to myself, like being in my head a lot about like all of those people that were, you know, in that Steak and Shake, and like, you know, that older couple, like what house they lived in, and like they go up to the Steak and Shake and have a, you know, Frisco burger and fries, and I don't know, it's just so weird for me. Like, I get in my head and I wonder about like people's lives, you know what I mean? I don't know if that's the writer part of me or the part of me that likes to watch TV shows, or I don't know what it is, you know? But I do love all that. Do you ever have like random conversations with people, like in gas stations, like in the middle of the night, like when you're on the road traveling or whatever, like just like a minute or two conversation, they make like an impression on you, but like you never see that person again in your life? Like, I remember when Alex and I were coming back from Florida, and I don't think it was this year, I think it was for our anniversary last August, and which we're trying to figure out what we want to do this year. I really kind of want to go to Vegas, actually. But we, I remember we were standing in line, and there was this, like, these two women that, like, you could tell they were friends. And I was like, we had to stand in like the, you know, the ticket line, and then they were behind us when we had to go through like security or whatever. And like I was sitting there listening, they were right behind us, and I listened to their conversation like the whole time. Almost to the point of like where I felt like I knew them. And then like when we sat down at the gate waiting to get on the plane, they were sitting like right in front of us. And I was like, I don't know, like for some reason I was like mesmerized. They kind of reminded me of Tanya and I a little bit, and I was kind of like, they both had these big sun hats on, and I was kind of mesmerized by them a little bit, and they were just talking about just random stuff, you know? And but like I remember when I got off the plane in Indianapolis, I saw them waiting for their bags, and like they didn't know me, like we hadn't talked, we hadn't even exchanged any words, but like I seriously felt like I knew their life. Like on the plane when they got up and went to the bathroom and stuff, I was like, oh, there's those ladies, you know? And then it was like, I remember seeing, it was so, like, this is how I'm so weird. I remember seeing them at the airport, and they were like getting their bags, and like their husbands were there picking them up, and I was like, like I'll never see them again. It's like so weird. Like I have these like weird attachments of things. Like I just, like I create these stories in my head, you know? Like I know it's weird. I know it, you know? God, that stupid light. It is really doing it a lot with this camera. I don't understand it. I'm like thinking in my head of like times that like, you know, Alex and I would sit next to dinner at somebody, you know, in Miami, and we would start talking to them, and oh, where are you from, and you know, things like that. And like one of the things is like in Indianapolis, like because we don't have, I mean, there's a big population of people that are Latino here, but like there's a lot of people that are Mexican, and then there's not as many people here that are like from South America. So whenever Alex, like, and he can tell by accents, like starts talking to somebody that's from like, you know, Ecuador, or you know, somebody that's from like Central or South America, or Colombia, or you know, Peru, we'll start talking to them, and I don't know, it was funny because Alex was telling me about like some people that he met at the music festival this weekend, and he was like, this girl, I talked to her for a while, and then she was like on my shoulders, and I'll probably never see her again. And it's weird how like people come into your life and they have like an impact on you for like a couple minutes. Like there's just been so many instances like that in my life, like people I've talked to in stores, or like sitting on a plane next to somebody. Have you ever talked to somebody on a plane and like you never see them or talk to them again, and yet you have this like kind of like deep conversation about things, or you know what I mean? You get to know somebody. It's like, I don't know, it's strange. The world is a strange place. The world is a vampire. Whatever happened to them? I think like reading from a young age too, like always being interested in stories and characters. And I'm also a reader that I'm more interested in reading about characters than I am about plot. I think like reading from such a young age has always made me interested in people. And I think watching movies and watching like, TV shows and stuff like that as well, has done that, if that makes any sense. You know what I mean? Whereas I think like, what time is it? I don't know why I have that interest in people and getting to know people and wanting to hear their stories. I was just having this thought, it's weird being sober, like, I don't think about this a lot, but like back in the day when I was like drinking and using, like my senses were very muted. I was just listening to the turn signal, and I was thinking like, like my vision is clear, my sound is clear, like everything is so clear. And I remember back in the day, like, my, like all of my senses were so clogged, they were so muted, and that like, just, I don't know, like, we don't talk a lot about how like alcohol does that, and, I think like to some degree like alcohol is like the most misunderstood drug. We don't talk about it a lot because it's like people ask me a lot like, oh, if marijuana is legalized, will you start smoking weed? And I'm like, no, like alcohol is legal and I can't drink. I mean, I could if I chose to, but I don't drink because if I drank, I would drink all day, every day. Like I drink alcoholically. So if I'm going to smoke weed, I'm going to smoke weed like an addict. Like I'm going to smoke it all day, every day, And, I don't know, recently I've been thinking back on what my life was like when I was using a lot, and it's like I was so muted. Like I just really, I was living, but I was like a living zombie, if that makes sense. Like I just, and I think back about like the relationships that I was in when I was using, I don't even really consider those real relationships, like not friendships, but like romantic relationships, and I mean, I live to use on a daily basis. And so how could I ever have possibly been there for somebody? You know what I mean? Like I just didn't even have the capacity for it. And, I think that's the saddest thing is when people contact me and they like are like, what should I do about this, or what should I do about my boyfriend or my girlfriend and whatever. And I'm like, okay, first of all, you're working 10 times harder than they are to save the relationship. You're also working 10 times harder than they are and trying to get them sober, And somebody commented on one of my vlog tonight, I think it was, or maybe it was my main channel video I did about addiction, and they said that you definitely have to hit your bottom to get sober. I'm not a believer in that. Just, and I know that there's a lot of different discussion about that, but I'm not a believer that you have to hit your bottom. I'm a believer that you can choose your bottom. I'm a believer that, like I mean, I really truly believe that my bottom was death. And so I didn't hit it, you know? But I think if I go back out there, that's what's waiting for me. I don't know, it's so weird to me. Like, I was watching a video of mine back today, and it was a Peterisms video. Like, it was the one that, like, was 6 seconds short, and I was watching it back, and I was like, sometimes I see myself, and I'm like, I think of myself differently in my head. I don't even know how to explain that. Like, you know, a lot for me is I really believe that, like, when I started using before then, and I'm talking like at 12 or 13, it was like I was going, you know, through life, and I was going down this road, right? And let's say there was desert on either side of me, and I'm like driving from like here to Vegas, and I'm like going through life, driving down this road, and then when I started using, I like went off like into the desert. But I didn't necessarily just go completely right and then come right back onto the road where I was when I left off. It's like I wandered into like the wilderness and the desert for a while, and I made it kind of far down the road. But like when I got back on the road at 22 and a half, I wasn't exactly where I was farther down the road than when I had first gone off. But like I had missed part of life, if that makes sense, that normal people go through. Like, I don't remember my graduation from high school, you know? I don't remember whole summers. I don't remember, like, really whole relationships. So how I could possibly be somebody in that relationship that cared enough about the other person to change for myself, I didn't have the capacity to do that. You know, it's like the guy that says on Oprah, you're expecting gallon-sized love from a pint-sized person. Like, I didn't have it, you know, to give. Like, I just didn't. I was so self-obsessed, so self-absorbed, that all I thought about was my own needs and what I wanted out of life. And so there was no way for me to give to another human being. There just wasn't. And so, you know, when I would date people and they would want me to quit. Oh, it stopped again. Okay, I'm going to try to wrap this up because the camera keeps on stopping. And I don't really understand why. I apologize. It's just going to be something that you're going to have to live with really long vlogs, I guess. You know, I'm just going to have to start getting used to it. So, anyway, now I don't even remember what I was talking about when I stopped. I was like, had it in my head, and then I started listening to my audiobook, and what was I talking about? It doesn't matter. Anyway, I remember talking about like stories from like people that like you just see out of nowhere. But that wasn't. I was talking about drinking and how I was so muted, you know. Oh, and I didn't have the capacity to like be there for somebody else, and that's true, you know. And so it makes me sad a lot, like when people contact me and they're like, "What to do?" And I'm like, a lot of times I want to say, you need to take care of yourself, you know. Stop focusing so much attention on fixing the other person and getting them changed, because, you know, you need to take care of yourself. And if they get better, if they're willing to take care of themselves and, you know, choose, I don't know, I think sometimes one of the things that we're not willing to do because it's our own selfishness that we want that other person in a relationship. And this is not so much a family member, but it can be a family member too, you know, is out of our own selfishness sometimes, and this will probably piss some people off. It's like we want the relationship so bad that we're like we become the victim and we become the person that's like, you know, like, oh, I do so much, I'm trying to get them help, I'm trying to do this, I'm trying to do that. And it's like, in reality, they don't want help. You know what I mean? Like, so the best that we can do is set a consequence for them. It's like my friend Peggy that said, you know, the only thing I can do is to not be your friend because you don't really care about anything else. And when I look back, like, that was the best thing that she could do at that time, because that was the best consequence she could help me suffer, was that I was losing friends and I was losing relationships as a result of my using, you know? And when she did that, it like made things better. So I think a lot of times the best that you can do is take care of yourself, and that's what I would recommend. But anyway, I'm gonna get off here, listen to my audiobook, go home, try to get a couple hours of sleep if I can fall asleep. And I hope you guys are having a great beginning of your week. I love you, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.